procrastination, imposter syndrome, all of those things have various charges and things in the mind that are kind of interwoven. We essentially go and get rid of them one by one so that they all just kind of dissipate. And all that's left is the relieved, calm, confident, clear, focused, action-taking you.
Hey, y'all, welcome to this episode of the Entrepreneur CFO Show, the podcast where we discuss the topics that entrepreneurs need to know. Before we start any of our episodes here, I like to always begin with a thought of the day. And today's thought of the day is getting out of your comfort zone. Your growth is typically found outside of your comfort zone. And it's kind of exciting because the guest we have on today, we met each other some time ago where I was in a hot seat at a mastermind group and he had me sweating bullets. So he got me out of my comfort zone and helped take my business to the next level. This is my guy, John Whiting. He's with us today. Let me pull his bio up here. Has built a 7-figure marketing agency that had 19 employees and over 400 clients and sold the business in 2019. His education programs have served over 2,000 students. That's having impact. He has been featured on MSNBC, Fox Business, New York Times Weekly, Yahoo Finance, and Thrive Global. In 2020, the year of the pandemic, John decided to take the best of his mental knowledge and processes he's learned that have been 99% responsible for his life turnaround and impact thousands of people, and has created what's called the Bulletproof program, y'all. So that's who we have here today. John, what's up, brother? How you doing?
Hey, man, I'm great, dude. Thank you again for having me on. It's always good to connect with you, dude.
Oh, man, absolutely. Absolutely. So I have to share the story about how we met each other so people can really understand our relationship here. It's not like John and I text each other every day and ask each other what we're eating. And we talk to each other every once in a blue moon via maybe a Facebook Messenger. But he has definitely a place in my heart, and I'll forever be grateful to him. So this had to be, John, what was this, that mastermind? Was that like a September?
Last September, yeah.
Yeah. So last September. So we're talking about over a year ago, was in a mastermind with other 6, 7, and 8-figure entrepreneurs, actually in Columbus, Ohio. And during that mastermind, we go through, just a bunch of different, mindset exercises and looking at our businesses and just really getting transparent. And I call it getting butt naked. Getting on the table and getting butt naked and just opening it all up and saying, hey, this is what I need help with. So that particular day was my time to be in what we call a hot seat. And I got in a hot seat and I said, hey, y'all, I'm having an issue with my business. I'm trying to transition from being known as a traditional financial advisor to being this entrepreneur CFO. And I have this product and I don't know how to bring it to market. And as I got up there and shared my story, John was one of the experts in the back and just jumped right in. It's like, hey, this is what we do. This is what he said. I was just sitting back here chomping at the bit, waiting for you to be quiet. And he got up there, man, and y'all, and he gave it to me real. He gave it to me direct. I was out of my comfort zone. I sweat a little bit. And then from there on, it's like, oh, this is my guy. So later on down the line, I reached out to him, had the opportunity to take one of his online courses, which was absolutely phenomenal. But me knowing that the value in coaching and just really getting it from the horse's mouth and working with experts who have a proven result, I reached out to him and said, hey, brother, man, I love the online piece. That's dope, but I need some help to put some eyes on some things. And I remember I reached out to John. He said, yeah, man, I can do a consult for you, a coaching for you. It's going to be, 2 hours, 2 hours. And he gave me the price, and the price included some commas. And I had to talk to my wife. I said, well, man, this dude is going to charge me some commas for 2 hours worth of time. And we've had this conversation before, because this is actually how we met each other at the mastermind. I worked with 2X, and so I'm used to writing checks with commas for coaching. But I was like, man, this is 2 hours. I said, I'm gonna get all I can out of these 2 hours. And with that said, John, you and I haven't talked about it, but that time that we spend with each other has added at least another 50 grand to my top line revenue for the year, brother. So it was a small investment back then with those couple commas, but it has paid dividends, brother. So with that being said, y'all, one of my real life coaches, somebody who's helped me actually build my business, John Whiting. So, John, tell us what's going on, man. How you been? Get us caught up, brother.
Things are good, dude. That's super awesome to hear. In full transparency, that is kind of the first time that I've heard that, at least specifically in this format. So that's awesome to hear. And at least reminds me that I kind of know what I'm doing. So that's super cool, man. Yeah, things are good. I've kind of recently pivoted out of the whole, for the last 3 years, really. It was all about strategies, tactics, marketing, sales, what buttons to push, what to say here, what systems to set up, and all that's great. But one of the things, as we were talking offline before this, is the difference that's made the difference for me is some work that I did probably 4 or 5 years ago that for the longest time, you were asking me, like, why the pivot to kind of the mindset stuff and like, what the heck are you actually doing now? And so after I sold the agency, I was just kind of like, what do I want to do with the rest of my life? And as we all kind of reevaluate as we go, and I kind of knew I didn't want to be in the strategies and tactics space for a few reasons. As soon as the algorithm changes or a strategy stops working for some reason, you got to reteach things. And for me, like, that's just not where my interest lies. And especially having worked with a lot of entrepreneurs on that for the last few years, it's just kind of, if I have to answer one more damn LinkedIn question, it's like, I don't want to. So it kind of got to that point. And interestingly, always like, I kind of went from, for 8-9 years, I pretty much studied, like I kind of in 2012, I kind of hit like my life rock bottom. And it was pretty rough. Like as a kid growing up too, like I was just angry, confused, and like my life just didn't work forever. And so like my parents sent me to psychiatrists and stuff as a kid, and like I was a problem. And so kind of fast forwarding that to the culmination of that big problem in 2012, it was like some pretty dark times for me. And I was like, well, either I'm going to end it or I'm going to figure out how to make it work, because so far everything has sucked. Yep. And so that was kind of what, in 2012, I went on a search for like how to fix myself essentially and become successful and happy and fulfilled and what everybody, seems to want. For. Yeah. And so I've studied and bought into pretty much every program, guru, religion, process, you name it. I have probably tried it, dabbled in it, bought full in, whatever. I've moved in around to 6 states at that time to like work with different mentors who, if you want to be successful, go find a successful mentor and work for them and blah, blah, blah. So there's a whole series of lessons I learned along the way doing that. But at the same time, like 8 years of this, literally just full on personal development and business development. Like there's a lot of, you can't see it in the frame right now, but I have hundreds of books in this room, all of which I've read. And I could probably recite to you back in like 2014, how to build a 7-figure business. Like I knew how, but I couldn't do it. And it was very frustrating. So a lot of times, like if those of you listening, probably you've bought into some program or studied something to, like, if you're listening to this, you're interested in information that helps you. A lot of times what I've found, and it was the case for myself, I had all the information, but I couldn't get out of my own damn way to apply it. Man. And so this was frustrating as hell. And so when, it kind of just got to a point where I was like, all right, 8 years has gone by and I've still never made more than like 30 grand in a year. And I'm like, I know I have it in me, but I can't freaking get it out. Mm-hmm. And so I just kind of kept sharing that with different people and quote unquote mentors and whatever. And in 2015 or 16, I got introduced to a guy who introduced me to a guy who you might as well, if you've seen Star Wars and you know who Yoda is, very close to that. And that's not much of an exaggeration. Is very interesting character. We'll just put it that way. And he's not a mainstream dude. You're not going to find him if you Google him. In fact, he's very, very private.
Okay.
And so he prefers to remain pretty anonymous. I shared with him like what I was just sharing with you. And he's like, well, let me share with you kind of what I've learned. And I'm like, shoot, brother, because I'm screwed right now. And so he shares with me a few frameworks about how the mind works. And I'm like, that makes sense. I've kind of heard that, but you're telling it in a way now that it kind of makes some tangible sense. And so long story short, and then I'll go back to the details if we'll go there. But long story short, I ended up working with the guy to essentially like remove my mental shit. And essentially the frameworks that he shared with me is we've got all of these things in our mind that stop us. And the real you is the one that is pretty much the all-knowing, powerful, creative being that like is the one that's like, I know I have it in me. You do. That's your natural state. So I'm like, okay, so how do I get that out? Well, we got to remove the shit.
Right.
All right, cool. How do I do that? So long story short, ended up moving to LA as where this dude lives and working with this guy and doing whatever I had to be in exchange for his one-on-one facilitation time. And for 2.5 years, 4 days a week, we went in and started systematically removing shit.
Wow.
And you name it, we were going in and looking and finding it and removing it. Go and look and find and remove. And I'm just like, this, I feel different. Like for the first time, I actually feel like something's happening. And so on the tail end of that is when I started the agency. And long story short, going from never making like 30K in a year, that first 12 months following my pretty much, I'll say, completion of my work with him, it was 7 figures. And then the following year after that was 7 figures. And I'm like, I kind of already knew pretty much everything that I was doing. Like there was a few little gaps in there that I filled in education wise, but like, what was the difference? The difference is I got out of my own way. Wow. And when I built the agency, like it obviously worked. You can't get to a team of 20 and 400 clients without things working. And so I had people along the way like ask me, how are you doing this? And so that was kind of what, based on that demand, I just started putting out some education products that were pretty ghetto, I thought at the time. Started with literally an iPhone and pen and paper. No doubt. I sold a lot of those, and that ended up being like, you're the dude with the awesome pen and paper shit. I'm like, yeah, that's me.
Yeah, man, it's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah. So from there, so that's all cool. But now it got to the point to what made the pivot. I'm like, everything I went through in those 2 years working with this dude, I've never really shared. And it's really, especially after working with entrepreneurs on like the execution strategies and tactics. Yeah. Like how many people do you know that know the financial principles to use, but they don't execute on them because they're afraid of making the wrong decisions. They doubt whether they can do it right. They've, all of the shit that keeps them from actually executing on the things that they know.
Absolutely.
So you deal with thousands of those people, whether it's financial execution, lead gen execution, marketing execution, sales execution. These people have all of the strategies and tactics in the world, but can't
available to them.
Get themselves to do the thing. And so for me, I'm just like, well, I have those tools, and now I've made them into kind of a more consumable, and based on all the things that I've learned in addition to working with this dude, I've put kind of my own flavor on it, so to speak, and essentially made it very accessible for people to go in and remove their own shit. And so far it's been, and then I'll shut up and let you ask whatever you want. We had just 60 days ago kind of relaunched my education consulting coaching business with the Bulletproof Entrepreneur program. And so far, we've had 36 people go through. It's very high ticket. It's very intimate. But 36 people have gone through so far. And on average, the 30-day, all we focus on is getting rid of shit. All we focus on is getting rid of shit. We don't focus on how to focus better. We don't focus on how to build confidence. We don't focus on how to execute. We only focus on removal. And just by focusing on removing fear, frustration, resentment, anxiety, all that shit, on average, in the first 30 days of that program, a 23% increase in income across the board.
Wow. That's
on average.
That's amazing.
And so to me, it reconfirms to me, because I'm like, well, obviously there should be, because that's the only thing that got me to that next level. So I'm specifically now working with entrepreneurs who you have a business, you know, you have the next level in you. We're just going to remove the things that are keeping you from getting that out. And interestingly, not kind of interestingly, but like, it's not like a shock, but it's always nice when things work.
Right.
We've had a very, very, very successful start to this. And now I'm just kind of rebuilding this company. We now have a team of 4 and, you know, we're rebuilding, but we've done, a few $100,000 in the first 77 days since relaunching.
I love how you say a few $100,000 in the first. You said 70 days. That's awesome.
77. Yeah.
I absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. So brother, I'm gonna take my notes here, and I wanted to let you. I didn't want to interrupt you because you had your flow going, and I'm gonna be super transparent here, and I know I'm probably gonna probably piss people off and possibly lose some followers on this thing, but I have to say it. So those who don't know is I recently broke my leg really bad. I've had a pretty a major surgery on my ankle, which required, you know, some screws and plates and things of that nature. And for anybody who's ever had any surgery, know that you go under, you know, say you have your anesthesia and whatnot, and they put you to sleep and whatnot. Well, typically they tell you and they warn you, hey, based upon that medicine and also the pain medication that you're going to take, that you may suffer from some constipation. So here recently, and my wife was kind of prepared for it. She's like, hey, I got this. I don't know what solution it is or something that kind of helps with the constipation. And here recently, you know, after having the surgery and taking all of the, you know, the Percocets and narcotics and whatnot for the pain, I had to use the restroom one day, John. And brother, I've never been in so much pain, and it hurt. I was like, if having a child is anything like this, I feel like I was in the most pain I've never. I'm one of the most regular dudes you're ever going to meet. I'm like clockwork. First thing in the morning, first sip of water, I'm going. This particular time, brother, it was painful. So as I'm listening here to you, it's literally what you're doing is getting rid of the mental constipation that's stopping people.
I was wondering where you were going with this. I'm like, this ought to be awesome. Where the hell are you going with this thing? Because this is epic. But you know, you're totally right. You're totally right. Thank you, by the way, for bringing that all the way back around.
Just give me a second. I was gonna bring it all the way home.
Yeah.
But yeah, man. So we talk about getting rid of the shit, and it's like crazy. And when that stuff finally passed, man, I felt like a brand new person. So I totally get it. And like in a literal sense of how good you feel when you get rid of the shit that's stopping you from moving forward, man. So what you're doing is absolutely phenomenal. And I think it just goes to say so much, because, you know, you see all the stuff on social media. Hey, if you buy Facebook ads, you'll make $1 million a minute. If you do this, if you do that. But ultimately, it really always comes down to the mindset that almost every entrepreneur we've had that we've interviewed on here has kind of said that, hey, I know it's the personal growth and development, but you're the only person that we've had on who now that's their primary focus is the mindset piece, man. So I think this is just absolutely phenomenal, but I love that piece about that. And then something else I want to point out here is, you know, this was an 8-year journey for you. And I had no idea, you know, you went through that, you know what I'm saying, you know, since 2012 and kind of get into this point.
Yeah.
It took you kind of 8 years, and then getting with your mentor and things of that nature, man. With your Bulletproof, and it's the Bulletproof Entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Your Bulletproof Entrepreneur, man. Like, you're condensing that time frame, which took you, you know, 8 years plus, and condensing that to where you're seeing results in the first 30 days, man. Like, talk us through a little bit how you're able to do that, because this is huge. Like a 23% increase in revenue over 30 days.
Yeah.
When I annualize that out, what that looks like is life changing for an entrepreneur and their family, man. So like, how are you able to do like condense those time frames in such a way without giving us? You don't have to give us all the secrets.
No. So first, just some frameworks and some basic understanding. So there's you who's like the super powerful guy, right? Like the internal you that you know has the ability. You may have heard it as like your spirit, or there's a bunch of different words for it. Your infinite God force, whatever you want to call it, your consciousness, the you that when I say, hey, look at your breakfast this morning, it's the you who decides to call up that picture in the mind, right? So there's you, your body, and your mind. And so your body is not a thing that you are, it's a thing that you have. When you basically refer to your elbow, you don't say I elbow, you say my elbow. So whose elbow is it? Mine. Who's me? Who's the one that's saying that? It's my brain. Well, are you a brain then? No, you have a brain. You are the one that says my brain, as identifying it as separate from you.
Okay.
And so that consciousness, so to speak, is pretty darn large. So it's kind of like one of those things where you ever been like feeling like somebody was looking at you and you turned around and sure as shit they were looking at you.
Absolutely.
Right. So you're feeling somebody else's consciousness kind of impinge on your universe, right? And then you feel them. Or like you'll be at a concert and like before you even see the main guy, let's say it's Kanye, before even Kanye comes out on stage, you can feel Kanye's presence like enter the building, right?
Yeah.
So what the hell is that? Well, that's the real Kanye, right? So the real you is the one who, like, you and I are on the same wavelength right now. There's a part of me that's like reading your mind. There's a part of you that's kind of reading my mind, seeing where I'm at. You do this on sales calls with clients. You know kind of what they're thinking. It's kind of one of those where the you, not the body, but the you kind of gets in their universe and sees things and makes shit happen. So my job is, and this is again, what's true for you is true for you. If you're watching this, this isn't meant to compete with any religious or philosophical beliefs. This is just the framework that I've used to understand and get the most out of myself that finally made sense to me. So if I say something you disagree with, that's cool. That's not meant to be like, just take what's true for you, figure out if it works. If it does, great, use it. If it doesn't, this isn't like doctrine. It's just a practical framework, just disclaimer. So interestingly, you're pretty darn big. Like, for example, like Jeff Bezos, he has to take over a lot of space in his universe to command tens of thousands of employees and a whole bunch of investors and change the entire planet. Like, his beingness just permeates the planet. Big dude, right? Body might be 5'9" or whatever the hell he is. I don't know how big he is, but he is a big being. So how do you expand you to where the greater that you expand, the greater your business expands, the greater you can facilitate your team expanding. Interestingly, the greater your income expands.
Yeah.
So your income expands to the ability that you can expand. But what prevents us from expanding? So there's all of these things in the mind, and I refer to them as charges. And let me just break that down for you real quick. So let's say you've been rejected, Perry, on a sales call, right? Somebody said no to you, right?
Absolutely.
So in your mind, just kindergarten here, does that have more of a positive association with it or negative association with it?
Typically a negative. You get rejected.
Typically a negative, right? So it would be an imbalanced perception in favor of the negative, a bad past event, right? So what happens is that now gets stored in your mind as a bad past, overly negative event. And you have all of these that your mind is always recording, just like a YouTube video from like every single moment of every single piece of your life. And there are certain moments that are stored with more of a overly negative charge or imbalance. If you look at like a battery, positive pole, negative pole, if you were to say where's the charge, well, you would say more negative on that one, right? So just for simplicity's sake.
So you got like your YouTube and then you got your playlist, and this is going into my negative. Dang, that didn't go
well. You got
well.
it, baby. You got it, right? And so all of those things, they act as essentially lenses. Did you ever, like in health class, when they were trying to get you to not drink, did they ever like have you wear drunk goggles Like the ski mask that's kind of like a funhouse mirror kind of a thing.
No, that's not like it's been fun, but I know what you're talking about. But yeah. I get it. Okay.
Yeah. So we did this, and they have you put on for those of you who don't know what drunk goggles are, they're essentially, it's like this ski mask that's like a funhouse mirror that like warps everything. And this is supposedly reproducing the experience of being drunk. So they have you try and like walk a straight line. Everybody laughs because it's hard to do it. Ha ha ha. So what happens is these imbalanced events where you're just like, oh man, that's kind of a heavy event. When you think about it, you feel heavier, right? Okay. So those heavy negative events essentially put on these drunk goggles. And so what happens is now you're looking at life through these lenses that are skewing reality. You with me?
Yep.
So you're looking at this thing, and you're going, oh, that reminds me of this other thing that was negative in my mind, and therefore I'm going to avoid this thing. So, for example, to make that practical, if you get rejected a few times, you might be, oh, I don't want to take sales calls. I'm not a salesperson, because you're looking at it through the lens of I don't want to get rejected.
Yep.
That's not true. It's just the way that your current lens is causing you to perceive the reality.
Okay.
And so what happens is you have all these entrepreneurs, especially today, they're like, oh, I'm seeking the tactics and the strategies, and I'll buy the Facebook ads thing, and I'll buy this tactic, I'll buy this strategy, and they're a dime a dozen. You can find them all on YouTube. Yep. What happens is now they sit down with this perfect recipe and they prepare it drunk. So it's kind of like, you're, in another analogy, like you go and drive a car, right? Is there something wrong with the car? No,
you're just driving it drunk or sober.
You're just driving it drunk or sober. Yeah. The sober drivers get further faster. The drunk drivers crash and burn.
Wow. Gotcha.
So what happens is, in the mind, is these imbalanced past experiences. And by the way, they can be imbalanced on the positive side as well, but just for our purposes here, to keep it dumb simple, what happens is entrepreneurs go seek strategies and tactics thinking that it's the car's fault. So they go and try and seek, what's the better tires that I can get? What's the better engine that I can get? What's the better seats I can get? The seats, the tires, and engine are just fine. The problem is the driver is drunk and he doesn't know it.
Wow.
And so what happens is these things are imbalanced. When you go and balance them, and there's specific ways that I've learned, and I, again, did a ton of this, to go and balance your mind so that, just like in math class, when on the left side, you're a finance guy, so when 4x equals 4x, you cancel them both out, and 0 equals 0, right? So when you balance the negatives with the positives and the charges of these events, they cancel out and they go away. They don't have that weight anymore, and the lenses come off, and you're able to see clearly the truth.
Okay.
And so what essentially I've done is there's a systematic way that we take an inventory of what are those things. That's very simple. Anybody can do it. We have a way of taking an inventory, and essentially you see that you have all of these lenses that are just stacked on top of your existence. Everybody has tons of them. I took 2.5 years to get rid of all mine.
Yeah.
But everybody has a shitload of them. Even if you think you don't, you do. And so even if it's just like fear of getting audited.
Wow.
Right. So, or fear of getting sued. Like, it's not maybe an active thing that you're like terrified, shivering in the corner about right now, but it's a thing that right now, if you got audited tomorrow, you may or may not be actually prepared for it, right? So, and this is like that would trigger past events in the mind of like getting called on in class and not being prepared for the answer, getting the ball passed to you in a basketball game and dropping it.
Missing the shot, dropping it. Wow.
Right? So all of those are very related, and we have an education, which is as short and straight to the point as we can, education on at least the practical framework that we use to essentially let you know, here's what's going on in the frameworks. Just like play ball with us, whatever your religious beliefs, this does not conflict with any of it. It's just a practical framework to make essentially this mindset work that we're doing actually tangible, and we have dashboards that like measure all of this shit, and it's actually measurable, tangible, trackable. And we've created a system that if you're interested, you can reach out to me and we'll share that with you. But there's an actual system where we systematically go and remove all of these lenses one by one, where all that's left is the real, awesome, productive, motivated, confident, certain, clear you. That's your natural state. You don't have a focus problem.
Yeah.
You have a problem of, you think you have a focus problem, that you think you need some other thing outside of you, like a new routine or a new hack or a new strategy. That's great. But if you're trying to apply that with drunk goggles on, it won't matter how many routines or hacks or strategies you use. You're still going to essentially screw it up. Or you're at least going to be looking at it through a lens that is probably not the most helpful.
Yeah.
And so essentially everything that we do is a removal process. And there's some frameworks to understand how does that apply as it relates to hiring a team, closing more sales, leading a team, setting goals. How many people do you and I both know, and probably both of us at times in our lives, I know I have been afraid to set the wrong goals.
Yep.
Afraid to hire the wrong people, past bad people that you hired that now you feel like, and they screwed you over or they stole from you. All of those things will make you averse to not only hiring, but also you're going to be looking at people through a much different lens than you will be if you were just the real, present, unbiased you.
Gotcha.
And so our goal, and the reason we've created these results, and the reason why, I've made multiple 7 figures in multiple businesses now in the last only 3 years, is being able to see things clearly and just do the thing with no inhibition, and magically results occur. And so all we do is we systematically essentially take an inventory of what these things are, and I have a special way of doing that. And we have a tool that basically handles each and every single one, depending on kind of what category it falls in, whether it's a loss that you had or a resentment that you have on anybody in your life, a fear, a doubt, a frustration. There's a specific process to balance out all of those. And just like when you balance it out, the equations that you and I both did in algebra class, we cancel those out, and there's less. It all neutralizes, and all that's left is the truth, which is you, the real, clear thinking, unbiased, just present you. And so also to go a bit meta on you real quick is, and this is actually has scientific, like actual practicality to it. So, in chemistry class, there's protons and neutrons in the center of an atom. On the outside, there's an equal number, usually for simplicity's sake, an equal number of electrons that balance out the protons. Right? So what happens is a charged particle is an imbalanced charged atom. So it has an additional or a less of an electron. So it's either positively or negatively charged. Okay. So when I talk about charges, that's literally how the atoms that hold this physical matter together, they literally have charges to them. So opposite charges like attract, right? And it holds physical matter together. Well, what happens is when you go through the pictures, the mind pictures also have physical universe charge connected with them. Have you ever gotten something off your chest and you felt lighter afterwards?
Man, let me tell you.
You are lighter.
Yeah.
And it's actually measurable, believe it or not. But what you're doing by getting it off your chest is essentially discharging those particles, and there's an actual measurable mass that gets removed from your mind, and you actually are lighter as it relates to number of particles that essentially are canceling each other out and neutralizing themselves as you essentially admit, oh, I did this thing and I stopped holding it in. It's a way of discharging your mind. And so what we're doing here is discharging all of the things in your business and life that are keeping you feeling heavy, sluggish, low energy, procrastination, imposter syndrome. All of those things have various charges and things in the mind that are kind of interwoven. And what we do is we essentially go and get rid of them one by one so that they all just kind of dissipate. And all that's left is the relieved, calm, confident, clear, focused, action-taking you. It does not require an additive of any sort.
This is phenomenal, brother. So I'm over here. If I didn't have a broken leg, would be jumping out my seat because this is super powerful, right?
Yeah.
A couple of things here as I kind of just taking my notes. Something that really resonated with me was that lens. That car analogy. There's nothing wrong with the car, right? You and now the deal is, as we have entrepreneurs at different levels listening to this, you're gonna have some folks who just have a jacked up car. So you got to get the car fixed. Your car is jacked up. But but this is what I'm thinking now. Even if your car is kind of jacked up and you're driving a beater, if the driver is on point, you can still potentially get to your destination. You might not get there as fast, but even in a poor business model, you can have the right driver and still get. That's just super powerful when you put it in that context.
And to add some additional flavor to that pot, you as the owner of this car, let's say you go and try and diagnose a problem to go and fix the car that most likely, every business has a thing in the car that needs to be fixed. But are you going to trust the drunk mechanic to go and diagnose the problem? Many people are diagnosing the problem, and they're diagnosing the wrong problem and prescribing the wrong solution because they're drunk.
Oh my goodness.
You see? Indeed. So it's not just the driving, it's also the diagnosing of the problem.
Right.
So many people diagnose, here's a perfect example is people oh man, I really need to get my Facebook ads working, even though they have an entire program and the best Facebook ads Facebook ads education that I've ever gotten was on a free YouTube channel, by the way. So everybody has access to all this shit. But what they do, and entrepreneurs are very smart and sophisticated people. So we have smart and sophisticated excuses. What we do is say, I can't do it yet because I need this other thing that isn't available to me. And it makes total sense to them. And it's easily explainable, rational. You can rationalize it away. There's very, very creative and educated and very high IQ excuses as to why the results aren't the way they want them. And that's another way of how when I say drunk, there's various levels of drunk. How many people do you know that are super smart, articulate? They have all the resources, but they're yeah, next month we're really the projections are this, that, and the other, but they're making $3,500 a month.
Right.
It's bro, you're making congrats for being smart, but you're getting in your own damn way. And that's especially the smarter entrepreneur, the higher IQ guy makes even higher IQ excuses as to why this is the most sophisticated. We have to do this because of the projections and the explanations for the things and the stuff. People do that. And as an excuse to go, I need to go learn all this other stuff. And then they learn something there that goes, that means I have to learn all this over here.
That means I got to go learn something else to go with that. Yeah.
Correct. And so most likely you have way too many tactics and strategies in your business. Way too many. Most likely your car is just good enough to get you from A to B. You're just justifying your fear of actually taking the actions that you should be taking and making it a very sophisticated, smart excuse and justification. And the way is, are the results in the business the way you want them? If they're not, you're making fucking excuses.
I love it. Woo! Boy, you dropping some fire right here. So it's a couple things here because I'm taking my notes and I'm staying with you here. But going back to that analogy we just used.
Yeah.
Okay. Because literally I say this in the conversations I have with people who are looking to bring us on as their CFO. It's okay, this what's going on. Your business is a vehicle to get you to your destinations. I literally say this. That's what it is. So we got to make sure, one, we know where the destination is and where we currently are. And then what I'm going to do is help come in on the financial side and help build the right system or build the right vehicle that you can then get in and drive.
Yeah.
But to your point, if there's a mental disconnect or we have the drunk lenses, I can build the best vehicle in the world. If they're still having a mental block, they're still not going to even drive the piece that we're driving. But what you did, you added this other piece to it, man. I saw what you did there. The diagnosis, right? So immediately when you said that, you went a different direction than I thought you were going to go, because when you said the diagnosis, I was like, geesh, if you take your car in and say, hey man, the car isn't good and I'm gonna have somebody diagnosis. Well, if the person who's doing the diagnostic is drunk, I start thinking about when people start getting coaching from people who don't have results. That's immediately where I went to. When you said that, I was like, man, so now you kind of got like the drunk leading the drunk, like, oh, you ain't that drunk. You know what I'm saying? Just do this, throw this over here, right? And get all that action going on, which all kind of goes back to that ecosystem that we talk about, and understanding that, hey, my success is a reflection of the success of others, and then I'm helping other people be successful, and it kind of just creates this whole piece, because your success in getting your mindset together now has you perfectly positioned, which I think the timing is perfect for this right now. Well, the time is always perfect to get your mindset right, but you hear people talk about mindset all the time, bro. But to actually have something, to your point right here, something that's tangible, systematic, measurable, because, hey, you went and read this book, great. Did that fix your mindset? Well, probably not, because you just maybe are more aware of what some of your issues are, but how do you systematically get that out with tangible exercises or, measurable? Right. If you can't measure it, you can't reach the goal, man. So this is just really phenomenal, brother. I'm just loving this. And I love how you keep going back to the math. It always comes down to the math and the science. A lot of times we can find a fix for almost anything in business if we go back to the most fundamental mathematical equation. We don't need calculus or differential equations, like literally some addition, some subtraction, understanding some simple algebra, and we can probably fix the issue. So and I don't want to go too long here, man, because I can see this is a conversation we could probably do a whole weekend on. But why do you think so many entrepreneurs struggle in this particular space, bro? You've been doing this a while. I've been doing this a while. Why does this continue to be an issue?
People are looking for, there's this fantasy that people hold in terms of, I want to have the financial freedom, the time freedom, and I want to have, get there fast, and then I'll just be able to chill.
Okay.
And so first of all, if we end up chatting further about this, we have an entire tool to flatten that infatuation. Okay. Because there is an overly positive association that's seeing only the good in somebody or in something and not the bad. So how many of us, you and I both, have gotten into relationships in the past where we're like, this is the one, she's perfect, everything's great about it, and everything is great about her, literally nothing wrong, and only seeing all positive, all positive, all positive, all positive. That's just as dangerous, if not more dangerous, because you're subject to you're blind to the other side. There's positives and negatives exist in equal quantity everywhere in the universe. So it's the law of polarity. Essentially, it's a universal law that is essentially, there's good in every bad in equal. So there's no such thing as extreme good and extreme bad. Everything is subjective to perception, kind of like temperature. Like you'd say a hot day on Earth is 100 degrees Fahrenheit, and you'd say 100 degrees is hot, right?
Yeah.
Right. So unless you're on Venus and the average temperature of Venus is 864 degrees Fahrenheit, now all of a sudden 100 degrees on Earth is cold as fuck.
Yeah, cold day.
So that would mean Venus is now hot, right?
Yeah.
Well, curveball, surface of the sun is just around 10,000 degrees Fahrenheit. Venus now is pretty chilly. Earth now is just frozen at 100 degrees. You see?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's all a matter of perspective. The truth is, there's no such thing as hot or cold. It's just a thing called temperature. Just like there's no such thing as a good or bad event. It's just an event. It depends on how you look at it. And so what we're doing what we do is essentially neutralize those perspectives, because how many of us have, and I've done this, you've done this, this is the perfect business plan, perfect idea, this is going to work, everybody's going to love it, it's only upside and no downside, and then some shit happened, and you swung all the way back from the positive to the negative, and you got all depressed and down on yourself and felt guilty and started questioning yourself and all that shit.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So those are charges in your mind that we need to balance out, and you'll appreciate this. This is exactly why Warren Buffett says, if you can't manage your emotions, you can't manage money.
Oh my gosh.
Many times.
Whoa. You brother, you moving so quick. We just got a hard pause on that one. If you can't manage your emotions, you can't manage your money. I just want to make sure y'all didn't miss that, brother. Keep going. That right there is a mic drop right there, but keep going, bro.
So Buffett, when he has a huge win, you don't see him jumping up and down on the table, popping bottles. When he has a huge loss, you don't see him with a shotgun in his mouth. He's the same guy. He's like, yeah, we win some, we lose some, and over time, we're betting on the U.S. over hundreds of years. And we're going to win some and we're going to lose some.
Yeah. Love
all it. Entrepreneurs get caught in the fantasy of it's only going to be upside. We're all going to win. Yay. And it's going to be so easy because I got this super slick blueprint to 2 steps to whatever the fuck.
Yeah, right.
And so they get all in, it's only upside, no downside. And then they hit a bump in the road and they go, oh man, that course didn't work. That guy sucks. And then they have a resentment against that guy. They have now a new failure in their mind, and they're just stacking negative events on top of the positive fantasies. And it's all unrealistic. It's all imbalanced. And so it's caused by, usually the starting point is this infatuation of get rich quick, have a bunch of time freedom, have a bunch of leverage, and we're going to get there and just chill. And then the business is going to produce passive income and everybody's going to live the dream. That's an infatuation fantasy that they're only seeing upsides and no downsides to it. It has equal downsides to upsides. And until you start seeing that, you're going to get sucked in by that Ponzi scheme.
Yep.
And then you're going to get your ass handed to you when it's something fucky happens.
Yep.
That's what happens. And so that's why you have entrepreneurs that have a roller coaster of income is directly correlated with the roller coaster of the emotions that they're experiencing. So if you neutralize that shit and you can objectively look at your business, life, your game plan, and all that stuff, now you can be Buffety and freaking just do objective, smart, numbers-based, data-based decisions without getting your emotions in the way.
Brother, you're in my head right now. One thing we say to people all the time when we talk about their finances, we got to take your emotions completely out of it. Yeah. No person has ever made a good emotional financial decision. I've yet to see it. We want you to be able to see your business in 3D, be able to make data-driven decisions. So I absolutely love this, man. This is absolutely phenomenal.
Yep.
All right, brother. So let me ask you this, man, because we definitely have to have you back on here soon to continue the conversation. But let's talk a little bit about, the entrepreneurs that's coming into your program, who you're looking for, how they can kind of reach out and contact you, and let's talk about some things along those lines.
Yes. So specifically right now, not working with brand newbies anymore, just because I'm going to get the what business should I start questions, and it's just not really what my jam of who I want to work with in the first place. Second of all, it wouldn't make much financial sense for them to, unless they were just seriously hell-bent on working with me. I don't want you going in the hole with no business model. I need you to have some sort of a train that you have a business model, you have it in you and you're committed to making it work, but you've kind of gotten stuck at anywhere from 10 to 50K, 60K a month. And you've got it. You got some successes, but you've just kind of hit a wall, whether you've got comfortable.
You're constipated.
Yeah, you got constipated.
You're constipated. You need to get that shit moving.
Basically, kind of 6-figure entrepreneurs, multiple 6-figure entrepreneurs that know they've got that 7-figure CEO within them, but just can't seem to get it out. That is entirely my jam, is helping them get it out in a number of different ways. That is very, again, practical, strategic, very measurable, and actually you will fucking know that you're out of your own way, essentially. There's not going to be a subjective I guess, it's you fucking know.
Right.
And so that's essentially what this program is designed to do. We also have an entire your life purpose linked with the business that makes everybody in alignment on the entire team. We also have a reading and leading people section where it's we go deep into how to get into somebody's universe and know, are they going to be a good hire? Are they going to be a good client? Can I trust this person? All of those things are, once you kind of get out of your own mind, so to speak, the next natural progression is, well, how do I help others do the same? Because the more you expand, the more you want to help others expand. And that's how you build an expansion-based business. That's how you get a business to grow, is you grow and you help your people grow. And so we give you all of the tools to not only get out of your own way, but help your team get out of their own way, and make sure you choose the right people for that team, and make sure it's all in basically complete alignment. One of the things that we track, we just do a simple scale of 1 to 10 when you sign up, and 30 days, 60 days, and 90 days of a number of different categories. One of them is, how in alignment do you feel with your life and business? And interestingly, there's been, I think, on the first group here so far, it's just been like a 28% increase in life and business alignment. And that's just by getting rid of shit and getting people clear on exactly where they want to go, and getting in touch with like the real you, not the fantasy based, I'm going to get rich quick tomorrow and I'm a piece of shit failure if I don't, you. That ain't really you. So we're just going to remove all that shit. So all that's left is the best of you. And so far, it's been pretty epic. We have tons of, I'll drop a link below if you want, with just like people's stories and case studies so far. It's been pretty remarkable. And that's really what I've just shared, is kind of just scratching the surface.
Man, I absolutely love it. What's the best way for people to follow you, John, connect with you? Where do you want people to jump in at, where they can check you out?
Honestly, just add me as a friend on Facebook. You've tagged me in this post, I believe. Just click on my name, add me as a friend. We got a free Facebook group where we have a shitload of trainings, like how to bulletproof your finances. We got how to beat procrastination, how to beat imposter syndrome. Those are all free trainings that are inside that group, among others, and it's totally free. And if you're interested in potentially working with me, just DM me and we'll chat. If not, no big deal.
And I'll say this, y'all, as we continue to build our ecosystem here, I was telling John, I told him, I said, I believe you're actually the first non-client we've had on the segment here. And having one of my coaches on here has been absolutely phenomenal, because again, I'm taking notes. And again, I'll say this too as well, y'all. You got to invest in your business, but investing in your business starts with investing in you. And to John's point, that mindset, don't be driving your business drunk. You know what I'm saying? Sober up, get undrunk, clear those lenses, those multiple layers of lenses, as John said, so that you can really drive your business and really reach those goals. And kind of with our vision, obviously, is, we help close the wealth gap one business at a time. It literally starts with mindset. So, brother, I'm so happy to have you on here, man, because you've actually absolutely dropped some gems on here. I have a desk full of notes right here. My desk is a dry erase board, and I can't wait to take a picture of this and kind of replay some of the conversations and things that we've had today. But it's so big, y'all. And like I say, I'm always try to function in level of transparency, and this is 100% truth and absolute factual. I paid John for 2 hours, paid him a couple grand for 2 hours of his time, where it's just he and I was all the way prepared. I think I sent you an agenda, said, hey, this is stuff I want to cover. I don't know what you want to talk about, but this is what I want to cover. And it was the best 2 hours I've spent of that particular year, man. So, brother, I appreciate you. I appreciate you joining us here, man, and dropping some gems on us. Definitely appreciate that, man. Continue to change and improve our business ecosystem, because if we have more entrepreneurs floating out there with bulletproof mindsets, who then can share that not only with their staff, with other entrepreneurs, and we can build that way, man, there's no way we can't win at this thing together in this thing called entrepreneurship, brother. So thank you for joining us. For those who listen to this, man, please subscribe to the podcast, The Entrepreneur CFO. Definitely follow us on LinkedIn and Instagram, as well as Facebook. We do have a entrepreneur wealth building community, free wealth building community, if you want to join that as well. And feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions or want to connect with us or talk about how we help close the wealth gap, one business at a time, by helping entrepreneurs get their business finances in order. With that being said, John, anything last you want to leave the people with, brother?
No, I appreciate you having me on, dude. It's always fun riffing. And for those of you listening, thank you for listening this far. And if there's anything that you feel that we might be able to do to help, reach out to, if you're on Facebook, just friend me on Facebook, follow me on, you know what, just go to whitingsolutions.com. if you were listening to this elsewhere and you don't see my Facebook, and that'll probably lead you to our free group anyway. And we just got a ton of value in there for you if this seems like stuff that you are interested in.
No doubt. All right, brother. Well, hey, y'all. Perry Jeffries here with our guest, John Whiting, Bulletproof Entrepreneur. And we're out. See you on the next episode of the ECFO show, y'all. All right, y'all. Peace.